Another episode of BDA Baby. I'm so excited. Excuse my appearance. It's so hot where I am that I cannot even fathom putting on anything but a jumpsuit. This is actually a jumpsuit that a lot of people ask me about. It's by Smash and Tess. I love all their stuff. Wore it every single day when I was pregnant. I can't wait to talk to Elliot and Matthew. They're here. We can get right into it. And I was gonna give a backstory about why I'm having them on, which they will explain because their story is so fascinating. I saw their story on Instagram. I came across it. I slid into their DMs, asked them to come on here and just talk about their journey to parenthood because we have so many amazing people's stories about their journeys to parenthood and fatherhood for both of these guys and their beautiful baby Uma. So let me bring them on. They're also traveling across the country, which is, I can't wait to hear about that too, especially in this heat wave. Yay!
Hi.
Guys, how are you?
We're doing well. How about you?
Great. Where are you guys right now?
It looks like we're both crouching down on the floor for this.
We're actually in Colorado right now. I heard you talking about how hot it is where you are, but it's actually pretty nice here.
Oh my gosh, you're so lucky. It was 105 here yesterday. So I'm sure though in your journey you're going to be hitting places that are going to be having a heat wave this summer. And before we get into it, can you explain a little bit about your journey and why you're driving across the country? We were going to do a Instagram live yesterday, and then I was like, no, let's just wait until we're in like a more solid spot. It was so hot here, and you guys were having car troubles, which you guys have been documenting. But tell us a little bit about your car experience.
So, do you want us to talk about our parent
travel
journey or our travel journey first?
Well, first, let's explain why we're both crouching.
Okay, yeah, perfect.
Well, we're on the floor because we're at a friend's place. Our car broke down, but we're in the beginning journey of what we call wandering retreat. And it's kind of challenging for us to explain, but essentially we have both quit our jobs and we sold our house and got rid of our belongings and are kind of reevaluating our life after the pandemic and really want to commit to spirituality and storytelling and seeking purpose and reimagining a new life for ourselves.
And I think we both realized after we were together during the lockdown how much we enjoyed being together, the three of us with our daughter during these like really formative years with her. So we decided now was the best time to do it so we could all really become students of the world together and learn as we go.
That's so awesome. I know there are so many different silver linings of this pandemic and the crazy year that we've had, and it's so amazing. You hear about so many people who are like, oh, I was stuck with this person in quarantine and I realized I don't like them. So
Yeah.
to hear a story like yours, to know that you guys actually realize you enjoy spending time together is so nice. And to continue that journey, I'm sure that's also so going to be so incredible for your daughter to be able to reflect on that experience and your guys' time driving across the country. You're just kind of going place to place, or do you have it all mapped out?
No, we're kind of just letting destiny guide us in a way. So we're starting in the States just because we were planning all of this COVID, the vaccines were rolling out here really well. We do hope that we can get overseas at some point, but for now we're just heading west.
And we're mostly just staying in a tent and camping, and for these first few months do a lot more inward work. So be in the woods and read and reflect. And I think, we were going to talk about our path to parenthood, but we realized how much intentionality that took for us to create our daughter. And we realized we want to have that kind of intentionality in all forms of our life. So in terms of how we raise our daughter, how, we parent her, what do we believe about education, what's our relationship with the earth and the food that we eat? Like, we want to question everything and really make intentional decisions for our daughter and for ourselves.
I love that. I think it's so awesome. And before we get into your journey, how old is Uma now? She's so cute. I love watching videos of you guys.
Thank you. She turned 2 in March.
So sweet. What a good age to be doing this. I feel like if you did it at a younger age, it would be a disaster.
Yeah, she's having a blast. She just loves, like, once you take her outside, her disposition just changes. So it really is such a good age to do this.
That's so awesome also, just because I think this past year, children of all have just been so focused on being on technology. So to have this big swing that you guys are doing of just really getting her, of course she's young, but just being outside, I'm sure, you know, obviously you mentioned that it has an effect on her demeanor, but just, you know, emotionally, physically, mentally, to be able to have all of that nature time, especially at such a young age, is going to be so amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're excited to see what she's like as she gets older.
And we're documenting everything, so it's kind of like a
So,
visual scrapbook for her when she gets older, because these are memories that will be formative, but I don't know if she'll like actually remember them. So this will be an opportunity for her to see what we were up to as she gets older.
I know it's interesting as I've gotten older to try. I was talking to my sister yesterday. I'm like, at what age do we start remembering things? Like, I was trying to figure out, do I remember my brother Patrick being born? I definitely remember Christopher born. So it'll be interesting depending on how long you guys are on the road to just kind of see what she actually remembers versus what you guys document for her. But I messaged you guys several months ago. I saw your guys' story on that I follow. And I'm so excited for people to hear more about your story. I love hearing about your journey to parenthood, to fatherhood for both of you. And it's such a unique one. We've had a couple of people on that have done surrogacy and gone that route, but your guys is exceptionally amazing. And I want people to hear just a little bit about your path first, and then we'll get into some questions that were asked.
So when we decided that we wanted to have kids, we knew that we would have to be unconventional no matter what, because we're two men. And so that's when we just kind of started thinking and manifesting out loud. And we were really lucky to have the women in our lives that really rallied to get like around us and cared about us. And the first thing that happened was I had actually been fired from my job when we got married. And so we lived in Nebraska, which is a pretty conservative state. And so we were really nervous to navigate like the adoption process or, you know, put our fate in someone else's hands. And so we decided we wanted to do egg donation, but we were pretty overwhelmed by the prices and, more importantly, like the choices. Like, how does one make this kind of decision, you know? And we were having that conversation over brunch, and then
so we were just mentioning the things that we were grappling with to my family, and my sister was like, well, if you need help, I'll do whatever I can to help you guys start a family. So that immediately felt really good, because not only did that mean that we had an egg donor and we didn't have to like buy an egg or figure out like how we would go about choosing an egg, but it meant that the child could be genetically related to both of us.
Right.
And Elliot's mom had just passed away, and so it was kind of a special way for, I mean, I guess that's your story to tell.
Yeah, it just felt more than both of us wanting to be like related to the baby. It felt really nice to carry on my mother's legacy, because she was such a special person. Obviously, she was my mom, and just to carry on that family legacy felt really beautiful to me too.
So we had an egg at that point, and we actually had one of our best friends that was willing to be a surrogate, but we were with our IVF specialist, and for a number of reasons, they were really pushing for us to consider another surrogate, which was really hard for us. But I just jokingly was like, well, my mom mentions that she'll do it. And I genuinely was just trying to get a reaction out of her, because I just didn't think that was in any way possible. You know, she was postmenopausal. She was 60 years old at the time. And the doctor didn't laugh at all. And she was like, well, is she healthy? And I was like, yeah, she's ran so many marathons in her life, and she eats really healthy. And then she asked her, you know, does she have a uterus? I'm like, yes. So they brought her in for a series of tests, and we kept like thinking that this would not work out. And like, we almost, because it was so foreign and unusual, we almost kind of hoped it didn't work out, you know, but my mom continued to pass the test with flying colors. And before you knew it, she was getting handed a bag of progesterone, and our IVF doctor told us, like, here's your surrogate. And so we just followed the doctor's lead, and we did an embryo transfer. She was pregnant.
The first one worked. Yeah,
she went almost 9 months with a pretty healthy pregnancy, and then she gave a natural birth and gave us our first child and her first granddaughter.
Oh my God. So I want to go back, because this brunch, obviously, that you were sitting your sister casually talking about all of the complexities that go into, you know, and we've talked about this before on BDA Baby process. How do you choose if you need an egg donor? How do you do that? That's so much pressure. You don't know the person. Do you choose open or closed? Like, how do you, and you want to also think about the child and
Yeah.
if they say like, I want to know my biological parent, like, how do you feel about, there are a lot of things to consider in that. So when you were talking about this with your sister, I mean, of course, in the dream world, you're like, yes, I would love to have my sister do that. We're related. We can have the same genetics in our child. But what was that actually like to say, okay, like this not like a joke, but like, you know, I
Yeah.
would like for your eggs.
Yeah, I think that me and my sister are best friends, and there's definitely a lot of like dialogue. People are like, well, technically now you're raising your niece, and like that baby is your genetically or biologically your sister's daughter. And I think that it never felt really confusing for us. One, because I was immediately her father, and there was a clear like distinction, between my sister's kids and Uma.
Mhm.
But it just made for a bigger circle around Uma that feels really special.
Yeah, and I think for us, we have a belief that transparency is best. And so I think there was that really antiquated belief of like, you know, unconventional or queer or infertile couples, they would try to keep it a secret, right? And for us, we're proud to say, like, look at these amazing women in your lives that all intentionally chose for you to be here. And so, it's one of those things where we didn't want to create these like separations. And so I think some people are like, oh, that feels uncomfortable or awkward. Well, for us, it felt more natural to be able to be open and transparent with our daughter and her origin story.
And I'm excited to see how she relates to it. I'm excited to see how she relates to her cousins as they get older, and just to kind of see what she makes of this, because really this is her story and her family too.
Yeah. How do you plan on explaining that? That was like a big question. And also I think just with children, I know, a couple kids in my life that are surrogates, the way they talk about it, they get older, it's like such a cool thing. And it's relatively new, of course. And of course, having it be such a special experience coming into this world that you guys have had for Uma, of your sister being part of it, then, you be part of it, and then your mom being Carrie. I mean, it's such a beautiful is an understatement for how that journey is described to me, at least as an outsider. I think it's magical, incredible that she's able to come to this world that way. But have you guys thought about that? I'm sure it's like been something that you think about.
Yeah, I mean, I always say from like a poetic standpoint that her aunt gave her the seed of life and her grandmother provided the garden for her to bloom, and as she gets older, we can talk more about logistical, pragmatic details of how science works during this time, but until then, that's kind of the, figurative, metaphorical way I would explain it to her as she gets older.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was actually talking to my friends who they're two women, and they had each of them, they have 4 kids, and 2 of them are their eggs and the other 2 are the other mom's eggs. And they were explaining it as cells to their kids as they got older, like, mommy got these cells, mama got them. It was such an interesting way to explain that to your kids, and they seemed to just kind of understand it really well. And always something interesting, I think, we hear stories like that, and on top of it, to have the idea that their grandmother, that Uma's grandma actually created, was able to, grow her. And what was that like for you? I mean, that's a story that you never really hear about.
Like in terms of my mom.
Yeah, I mean, your mom carrying her, obviously, like offering that as like an idea, but you saying it in the IVF doctor as like a joke, but then it actually happened.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is we can smile a lot now because everyone is healthy and happy, and we really do have this beautiful ending. But at the time, I felt a lot other things, and one of the main things I felt was fear because, like I said, I was always kind of secretly hoping it wouldn't work out this way because we had one mom left between the 2 of us, and we didn't want to put her at risk. We didn't want to be careless. We weren't
trying to be provocative
or like break a world record because she was one of the oldest individuals in the U.S. to ever do this. But my mom, like,
she's here, she's listening.
My mom's on. She figured out how to. Oh my God, she's right there. She doesn't normally know how to use Instagram, so this is
love
really
it.
impressive. Okay. Hi, Mom. I'm so proud of her. But my mom like believes, you know, that my mom has been a pretty nervous individual and really has, you know, she'd be fearful of certain things. And for this, she was like this pioneer, and she believes that it was like a divine intervention, that this was her calling, because she had committed her whole life to health and to fitness and to her children, obviously. And then this opportunity came to her, and she believed like this was God offering her, you know, an opportunity, and it was her responsibility. And so we just kind of followed her lead. I was terrified the whole time. I was always Googling like scenarios, and there's just no information.
She was so steady. She really believed that it was all going to work out, and we really just trusted her in that. I mean, Matt was still Googling every night, anything he could find about it, but our doctors were like, we're writing the book on, you know, this, because she's the oldest person in the United States to do this. So we really didn't have...
She's the oldest woman to do that.
In the United States. I think it's more taboo here than in other places. But there was one other 61-year-old individual, so the same age as my mom, that did it, I think, for her daughter.
Wow.
And so, yeah, and that's, I think, some of the stereotype. It doesn't mean that any 60-year-old can do this by any means. It takes a very particular type of person and a type of health status that you're at. But, you know, I think people don't realize that the body is capable of doing that. It's really the bigger problem when women struggle with infertility. It tends to be egg quality. But it wasn't my mom's egg that she contributed. She was just kind of serving as the vehicle. But we also had a lot of fun with it, though, too. So, like, I was scared the whole time. But, I mean, like, we'd go to the doctor's appointment, and they would call our name out, and it'd be me and Elliot, these two younger gay guys, and then my mom, 61-year-old, my dad, who was there for every appointment with us. I mean, it was a family.
The humor was not lost on us.
So we would kind of laugh. People's faces would be like, what is the situation?
I know, it's so amazing. But what was it like for your dad? That's so interesting. I didn't realize that he was such a big part of it.
Yeah, my dad is the best. He's really awesome. But it was really neat because my dad was so busy being a football coach and a principal when we were being born that he was never around for these appointments. And this time around, he got to be with my mom the whole time. And, you know, it was really special to see him admire her so much, because I think she's seen his strength a lot in his life, and this was his opportunity for him to see her strength. And I think he was really proud of her, and their love really, you know, I mean, what 60-year-olds can say that, you know, they're doing this. So it was definitely a story of a lifetime.
100%. I mean, I also think of like so many of my friends and people that I know, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired when you're pregnant in your 30s, and then you look at your mother, like, no complaining allowed. I mean, she's like, that's incredible.
Yeah, she looked really miserable at one point, like really tired is what I mean.
But she would never say it.
No, she wouldn't. She would never complain. But I remember I said, Mom, I promise I won't ever have you do this again. She goes, I promise I'll never offer again.
So do you think that after your experience, I mean, obviously you cannot, or you might not have an experience exactly, and do you want to have more kids, or what is your feeling on that?
Yeah, we do. We do want another kid. I think it'll be fun to have at least one sibling with Uma. But we're also, the way that our story was written, like it feels like a divine choosing, because it was so out of our hands. It was so unusual and so unique. And so we want to have that same open-mindedness again in terms of how that happens, whether that's adoption or foster or a different form of IVF or with the IVF rounds that we did before. So we're just trying to stay open and creative in terms of how our family expands.
Yeah. I also watched one of your guys' videos just explaining a little bit about the background of, you know, of your page, and just, you know, you guys sharing about your story and your journey. And also you guys saying that you didn't know if you wanted to have kids until someone in your family had kids, and then you realize, like, okay, we want to be parents, which I think that happens to a lot of people. But can you talk a little bit about that? Because there are a lot of people who, you know, might be watching or watch this later who feel like, you know, do I want to become a parent? There are so many ways to be able to get to fatherhood, motherhood, parenthood, and you've taken one of those paths. But what actually made you want to actually, because that's a lot of planning. It's not like you can just, whoops, I'm pregnant, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think as queer individuals, that it's really hard to admit to yourself that you do want to be a parent because you know that it's not going to be an easy journey. So I think, at least for me, the longest part of my like teenage and early 20s years, I just told myself I didn't want kids because it felt so vulnerable to admit it. And then it was when my mom got diagnosed with cancer and my sister became pregnant and my first nephew was born, and I realized that he brought so much joy into our lives, and that me and Matt had such a beautiful life together, and that we would love to share it with a child. So I think for us, it was just speaking to what we wanted and seeing the momentum that picked up that made us really realize, like, one, we're surrounded by such a beautiful community of love, and that I think the biggest thing you can do with anything you want is just to be open to speak to what you want, and that hopefully creative solutions can come to you. But yeah, I think that kind of answers the question.
I think, and afterward, the same goes for you, is there was a lot of fear. I think a lot of us, no matter if we're straight or gay or have infertility issues, we have so much fear right now. And so then we make decisions that are based out of that. And what I'm really happy and so proud to be a part of, like, a society where science allows us to be able to do this, and for us to realize that we are capable of giving love and receiving love, which I think is like the best gift that any of us can have, because I can't imagine my life. Like, there was life before Emma was born and there was life after. And this one has made me really love myself more than I ever thought I could, and love someone else more than I ever could, and my partner. And so it's not for everybody, but I think that if you are making the decision that's not rooted from a place of fear instead of a place of love and hope and optimism.
What has fatherhood been like for both of you? I mean, obviously you each have your own experience with it, but also your experience together, getting to a place from, wondering whether you want to become parents together, and then also becoming parents together and stepping into roles of parenthood, of fatherhood. What has that been like for you guys?
I definitely think that it's made me show up in my own life more deliberately. Now I have Uma watching me, and someday she will make sense of these early years, and it makes me want to be my best self. And I want her to reach her highest potential of happiness and meaning. And I think that's what has set us on this trajectory, is that we want her to see that we always sought out a life of purpose and meaning, and showing up intentionally in our life has definitely been the biggest shift for me, and learning to be way more patient. Way more patient.
Yeah, definitely. What about you?
I think I covered mine. Mine is just the deep pride that it has given me. It's like such a core element of my identity that I love so much. And like I said, it does push you and elevate you and challenge you to be a higher version of yourself, because I think sometimes when you're just left alone with you, you don't care as much. But when there is a child there that is looking up to you, and you want to show up as much as you can.
What is the experience like been with your sister Elliot, just with, obviously having the whole process, the whole journey to have her be a part of the creation of Uma, but then also just since she's been born? I mean, are there any complexities there, or is it just, amazing so far?
Yeah, I mean, obviously right now, like, Uma is young enough that she doesn't necessarily comprehend anything. My sister loves Uma so much, and my sister actually watched Uma for the last 2 years of her life. But when we,
like, for daycare,
like when I would go to work, she watched Uma. So Uma spent a lot of time over there, and so when we decided to start this journey, my sister moved down to Arizona. So we're kind of at this like shifting point in our relationship, and it's been really hard to have that separation, because I really love that like community and village that we are creating. But I know that we will remain close, but it really hasn't felt any more complex.
Yeah, I think we get, like, and you kind of touched on it before, we get that question a lot. That's like, what are you going to tell your kid? Like, will they be embarrassed about this particular thing? And for one, we want to acknowledge that, like, I think our kids are going to be embarrassed about anything that we do. And I think it's important that, it's more important that, we aren't trying so hard to do everything to dodge her embarrassment or shame that she may experience, but rather for us to show up with pride in who we are, because I think that's a better example, is to stand by the decisions that we made and know that they originated from from love. And so, and I also just think that like we are not as conventional, so we don't process like these like roles that everyone needs to play, you know.
It's
so
like dichotomy.
yeah, so it's like, oh, I forgot to think about that. Maybe she will think that's weird, you know, but
Yeah.
we are, I guess, a little weird. You know?
I guess, yeah, more than anything, we're just excited to see what she makes of it someday, right? Like, to us, it makes sense in our way, but to see what she makes of it is really going to be exciting and interesting.
Of course. I mean, I think also like every parent, I don't know that any child that isn't, you know, have moments of being embarrassed by their parents. So it definitely, you know, it wouldn't be different at all. But I think that the idea of just showing your daughter this pride in both of you, and also pride in her journey and her creation to, you know, being in the world is the greatest gift that you can give her. And just like the amount of love that is surrounding her while you guys are in this new chapter of your life of being on this journey, is just so incredible, and such a special gift to be able to give to her and to provide for her. I also wonder that, just based on you saying that, Matt, saying that, you know, people ask you these things or make you think about things maybe you wouldn't have thought about, do you guys have a way, or have you experienced any you know, criticism towards your guys' journey to become parents that you guys have dealt with, especially people's roads? I mean, even like as a new mom, I am having people saying, don't do it this way, do it this way. It's like people have so many opinions about parenthood, motherhood, fatherhood, how to get there, like all these different pathways. And I'm of the belief that everybody should do whatever they want to get to a place of, you know, happiness and creating a life. Amazing. But is there something that you guys have between each other, or that you guys have talked about when it comes to people's, you know, especially online, because you guys are being so open and dealing with people's opinions? Like,
Well, yeah, even like sometimes I'm having a hard time not glimpsing down at the comments, and most of them are really lovely. And then there are some that, you know, and it's hard not to take certain stuff personally, right? But I think that Elliot, more than anyone, really taught me how to handle those things with grace. And I'm really grateful of that gift that you gave me, because when we decided to share our story, and it did become this viral story that was on global networks, I went into like deep shame spirals, because I'm surrounded by so many people that are so nice and loving to me that I forget that there are other like meaner or different opinions. And so I was reading all of these things, and it was so challenging. And you really taught me to chuckle at it, because how neat that our choices that worked for us can evoke such wild emotions, both like love and support, but also disgust and hatred. And so I think that from there was a real pivotal point where we decided we're going to live out loud. And with that comes some, you know, repercussions of receiving other comments. And I'm human. So like sometimes when you see a certain thing, it is painful, but to learn to, like you said, live in your truth and stand your sacred ground, and to follow that is such a good life skill that I don't think I knew how to do quite as well until you taught me that.
And I just think as queer people, we don't quite fit into this world so like perfectly anyways. So that doing things like this that does like evoke a reaction from people doesn't feel as
new,
as intimidating, you know. And it almost, now we're finding like joy. Like, not only were people so confused with their journey to parenthood, you know, like accusing us of incest, but now with the lifestyle we're choosing, like like people have a lot of opinions about the things we're doing. And I think that's why we are sharing, and mostly it's all really loving, and
that's
people really do get it and are excited for us. And there's always going to be people that just don't want to get it, you know, and I don't want to show up for those people.
yeah, I always think that I mean, people who have such I don't even pay attention to the comments. I'm glad you're loving, but I always think people who write negative things or hurtful things, like my mom always taught me to think about the amount of pain and hurt that they must be in to be able to say those things.
Yes.
Prayer for them and send them off, and focus on all the love that comes away, which it seems, just based on, since I've been following you and just the support that you guys have in your journey and for your daughter, is so beautiful and incredible. And I'm grateful that you guys have shared your story, only because I love watching your family and you guys on this journey of traveling is just amazing. And also having a daughter myself, just to see your little girl and growing and responding to being in the outdoors, which I love, but also just to show people that there are so many pathways to parenthood, and that you can be at a place where you're questioning whether or not you want to go down that road. And then to see you guys and your beautiful family is just so incredible. And I think it's such an inspiring story to so many people. It's an inspiring story to me as well, because to see someone's reaction to this past year, that it's been, you know what, I want to detach from my things and get in the car and just have what I have and be with my loved ones and go. I think that's been a lot of people's reaction to this past year. And it's such an inspiring thing, because, you know, you always have the idea like that would be really nice to do, but then you guys are actually doing it. So there are so many inspiring parts of your guys' journey, whether it's your being parents or having Uma in this world, how you're raising her, able to get up and get in the car and drive across the country and not have a plan. As a planner myself, I'm like, such an incredible thing to be able to do. And just to be able to be so about your guys' story, the journey away is, it's such a gift that you're giving the world, with so much love and positivity. And I love following you guys, and I love just seeing the journey, and also just I'm excited to see where it goes, because it's always something new with you guys. I love that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for holding this space for us, and for creating this platform for people to share their truths too. We really appreciate you giving us this chance today.
Of course. And maybe we'll come in and check in again as you guys make your progress driving around and traveling with your family. It's so awesome. And I think we need more stories like that aren't focused on, you know, so much stuff, and really just being able to pack your car and go with your daughter. I think it's awesome. I'm just so excited to see how she reflects on this time in her life. It's such a cool thing to be able to do in an amazing time in both of your guys' lives as well. So thank you for taking the time to do this, and I hope that we're able to check in. And hi to your mom. I'm so glad that she was able to come. She's a hero. I literally showed this story to my mom, and she was like, oh my God, I can't imagine. She's so strong. Should I maybe try and do that sometime? I was like, well, I did have 4 children. I'm like, I know, but it's incredible. So amazing mom that you have, and thank you again for taking the time. I'm so excited about your guys' story, and say hi to Uma.
Will do. Thank you so
You'll
much.
have to let me know if you ever come through Los Angeles, and we can get the girls together.
That'd be
amazing.
awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds great.
Have a good day. Thank you guys.
Cool.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.